Prostitution, by definition, is the provision of sexual services in exchange for negotiated payment between consenting adults. In another term, prostitution is a service industry where people exchange skills for money. The worker in the sex industry deserves the same rights from the worker in any other trade, including legal protections from crimes such as sexual assault, sexual abuse, and rape. By legalizing prostitution, we can create a safer and healthier environment for the worker, and it can also be a source of tax revenue. So today, I would like to talk to you about the reasons why prostitution should be legalized, how effective legalization of prostitution can be in the organization that helps the sex worker. So let's begin by telling you. I'll begin by telling you the first reason why we should legalize prostitution. By legalizing prostitution, we can reduce the violence against the sex worker. A study conducted in San Francisco by Melissa Farley and Howard Barton showed that 82% of sex workers have been assaulted and 68% of them have been raped while working. So these people are more afraid to come to policemen for help when they're experiencing violence because what they're practicing is illegal, and they would only be arrested instead of getting help from the law enforcement. A very good example is a mass murderer case of Robert Pickton. He confessed of murdering 49 women, and 26 of them are prostitutes. He was first accused of murdering prostitutes in 1998, but not convicted until 2002. The police didn't take this investigation seriously because these women are prostitutes and they're known hookers. By legalizing prostitution, these people can now come to the law enforcement for help when they're experiencing violence. The second reason why we should decriminalize prostitution is that we can create a healthier environment for these workers. So illegal sex workers, they're being pressured by the Tims and Johns to forego condom, and they don't have the voice of their own to say, hey, you need to use condom for your own health and for your own risk. A report by Urban Justice Center found that the New York City policemen actually used condom as evidence to criminal prostitution case against them. Now they're not only afraid to come to the law enforcement for help, but afraid to carry condom as a form of protection for their own health. By legalizing prostitution, we can require condom usage and test it for STD more often, so it can reduce the risk of STD infection spread. The third reason why we should be criminalizing prostitution is that it could be a source of tax revenue. Prostitution is known as the world's oldest profession. It existed a long time ago and still existing today. A report showed that prostitution produces over $100 billion annually. So it's not, by legalizing prostitution, we're not only creating a new source of tax revenue, but we can also allow these workers to use prostitution as a job to file a bank account and to buy a car and buy a house. Since what they're doing is illegal, they cannot have any property by their own name. Now that I have talked to you about the reasons why prostitution should be legalized, let's talk about how decriminalization of prostitution can be effective. Many countries, because prostitution is correlated with high rate of crimes and poverty, that's why many countries tend to want to get rid of the practice. However, many governments have turned to legalizing prostitution. In 2003, New Zealand took the measures to legally regulating prostitution. The Reform Act sought specifically to safeguard the right to sex workers, promote public health, and reduce child prostitution. And since then, the results are really positive, that 70% of sex workers were more likely to report violence to the police after the Reform Act. Also, as you can see, the number of sex workers reduced by almost 3 times after 4 years. And a report showed that we can reduce the spread of HIV infection by 33 to 46% in 10 years if we legalize it globally. So So as I've shown you, legalization of prostitution can actually work. And by legalizing prostitution, we can create not only we can create a safer and healthier environment for workers, but it can also be a source of tax revenue. Prostitution or sex worker are very different from sex slavery. One is voluntary and one is coercive. There are two different kinds of jobs, and you cannot group them together and treat them the same. Banning prostitution isn't working, and it's just um, it's just putting the problem behind the closed door and ignoring it instead of fixing the problem. That's why prostitution should be legalized. After this presentation, I hope that you can have a more opening mind and a better understanding on the topic of prostitution. I would also list the link to the organization that helps sex workers under the description box, so you can check it out. So thank you for your time and your patience.